MiMentor, our mission is to provide mentoring opportunities and inspire the next generation of healthcare leaders for underserved communities. And so we hope that with this webinar, we're providing you with these mentoring opportunities. So I'd like to welcome Kenya Flores, Alejandra Novoa Vargas, Mayra Orozco Llamas, and they'll go ahead and start.
Hi, everybody. We're going to start by introducing ourselves. My name is Kenya Flores, and I am the Central California VP of Mentorship for Post Bacc with MiMentor. I graduated from UCLA in 2015 with a degree in Human Biology and Society, and I completed an informal Post-bac at CSU Fresno this past year, and I will be explaining you more about my experience in this presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alejandra Novoa Vargas. I am the VP of Educational Pathways for Post-Bacc here in Southern California. A little about myself. I graduated from UCLA at a double major in Chicano and Gender Studies in 2013. And I did an official Post-Bacc at Charles Drew University. And I finished it last summer in 2016. And I also did an informal Post-Bacc at Santa Monica and ELAC, as well as at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Currently, I am a research coordinator for UCI Medical Center, Department of Nephrology, and I'm glad you're all here. Hi, everyone, and I'm Mayra Orozco Llamas. I am the VP of Educational Pathways for Post-Bacc in Northern California. And I graduated from UC Davis in the spring of 2016. And I took this year off to study for the MCAT and get more research experience and save money as well. And am currently applying to medical school. So before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about. So first, we will be explaining what a Post-Bacc is, and then we'll review how to determine your science GPA. And then after that, we'll go into the difference between an official and an unofficial Post-Bacc. And in addition, we know that many of you guys are worried about how to finance a Post-Bacc. So we're going to try to address all of your questions that you guys sent us. If you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll try to answer them as we're giving the presentation, but it might be a little difficult. So we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation. So first, what is a Post-Bacc? So a Post-Bacc is the time in between completing your bachelor's degree and enrolling in a health professional school. So during your Post-Bacc years, they're very important because you want to make sure that you're working to strengthen your application. So there's a couple reasons why students might take time off before applying to medical school or another health professional school, and that is to either improve their science GPA, fulfill requirements that they have not taken before, to gain more research and clinical experience, to study for the MCAT, or to even save money. Because as many of you know, applying to medical school can be very expensive, especially if you don't qualify for financial assistance. So with that, so what are Post-Bacc programs? Post-Bacc programs are for individuals that have received an undergraduate degree and are designed to support the transition into a professional school. So they can allow you to improve your science GPA and finish prerequisites, like I said, that you haven't taken before. So there are different types of Post-Baccs, like I mentioned before. There's formal and informal that we'll talk about in future slides. And like I said, we want to make sure that during this year or during these years, if it's longer than one, that you're using it to strengthen your application and also reflect about why you want to be a health professional. So next. So it's important to calculate your science GPA before applying to a health professional school or applying to post-bac programs, just to see where you're at. And so your science GPA includes its biology, chemistry, physics, and math. So the way you can find out whether your classes qualify as science, you can look at the AAMC course classification guide, which you can find on the site that we provided right here on the slide. It's through the AAMC, and you can decide what classes that you've taken are included in that science GPA. Once you have your science GPA, you want to make sure to speak to a counselor or to a mentor to determine if it's competitive. I can't really tell you what a good GPA is because it isn't everything. You want to also consider your MCAT and all of your experiences. And so going on, many times first-year students are still getting used to the rigors of college and sometimes struggle during their first couple of years. And something to remember is that schools like to see an upward trend, meaning that they like to see you improve over the course of your undergraduate career. So if you didn't do so well during your first couple years, but did well during your last years, then you might be fine. And lastly, another reason why you want to calculate your GPA is just because some official postbaccs also have science requirements. And so below there's a table that this is an example of what medical schools look at. So it's divided into your biology, chemistry, physics, and math GPA. And then the next column is all other, so anything but science. And then we have total. And they also separate into high school, your college years, your post-bac years, and then they calculate the cumulative and then the graduate. So schools can really see how you've improved over the years. And also something to remember is that the bottom supplemental hours, they do not count, or they're not included in your GPA. They do count, but they're not included in your GPA. So for example, your pass-fail classes will not be in your GPA, or your AP classes from high school, they're also not included in your GPA. So that's just a little bit of background. So we're gonna go on to the next slide. And so now we're gonna go over to how to actually calculate your science GPA. Again, your biology, chemistry, physics, and math GPA. So I did an example of my sophomore year in college, and so I'm just gonna go through it real quick and just so you guys know how to do it. So I've placed all my courses into an Excel document and wrote next to it my grade and how many units it was. So I was in the quarter system, so I had to change my units, so my quarter units, I had to switch them into semester units. And the way that you find that is by multiplying the quarter units times 0.667 to get semester units. And so the next thing you want to do is assign each grade. You want to assign the points. And on the left side, there's a table that I have included that indicates how many points each letter is. For example, my first class, Animal Biology 50A, I got a B plus, and a B plus gets 3.33 points. And for example, my second one, it's Animal Biology 50B, and if I got an A, then it's 4 points. And then so on. Then you want to write the points for all the classes to the corresponding class. And then the next thing that you want to do is find the credit hours. And the way you find the credit hours is by multiplying the points times the semester units, not the quarter units, the semester units. So for example, my first class, I multiplied 3.3 times 1.33 to get a total credit hours for that class for 4.44. And then at the end, you find the sum of all your semester units to get 22.68, and then the sum of all your credit hours to get 73.97. And then finally, you take your total credit hours and divide it by your semester units to get your total GPA. So that's what I did for all my different years, so freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So that's just a little bit to help you. So next. So I think Alejandra is next.
We could move first to the unofficial postback.
Yes, sorry about that. I was muted. So now that you've already calculated your GPA and the courses that you've taken, now you kind of have to figure out which one are you, where do you fall under? Are you the career changer or the academic record enhancer? So a career changer, typically they have not completed the prereq courses, so those science courses, and typically the student has decided to pursue a health profession career much later in their undergraduate years or even beyond. So the science courses were not completed. Usually they've shifted their gears into a different arena. So they could have been doing psychology, or they could have done something else, a master's in something else, and have not done health or science focused. So again, not a science major. Like myself, I double major in Chicano and gender studies, and later on decided, after volunteering and so forth, decided I wanted to do medicine. So that would make me a career changer. An academic record enhancer, on the other hand, they typically have a science major, so your traditional biology majors and so forth, and they've pretty much completed some prereq courses, but need to improve their GPA in these subjects. So maybe they didn't do so well in those biology, chemistry courses, so they feel like their GPA is maybe not competitive, but they've already done the requirements for medical school. There's also those students who are in between, who have maybe taken most but not all science courses requirements, and they might not fall in either one. Specifically, this is important to note when you're applying to official postbaccs, because many times you might not fit the cutoff for a career changer because you've taken 3 courses. Maybe you've done your general bio, general chem, and maybe a physics course. So that might not qualify you for a career changer, but yet you wouldn't be an academic record enhancer because you have not completed or fulfilled those science courses. So again, it's very important to talk to your mentors and advisors to see what your next step is, and maybe perhaps an unofficial postbac might be best fit depending on your situation. Next slide. So the postbac, so the official postbac. So like I mentioned before, I did an official postbac at Charles Drew University. So with an official postbac, it has more of a structured curriculum. So many times they're not very flexible in the sense of you being able to take one course or maybe taking it later in the evening if you work. It's more structured, so you probably have your full course, be a full-time student, 3 to 4 courses depending on the program. And some programs have a unit cap or a program length. So that just kind of means, like for Charles Drew, for example, they were capped at 36 So you would have completed that program at 36 units to be able to qualify for maybe some type of financial assistance, whether that be loans or work study. And after that, you'd have to pay out of pocket or find a different way of funding your program. And when it comes to program length, there are some programs like, for example, Scripps College, who is 13 months, I believe, or a year, as opposed to other programs that are maybe only a year or 2 years, depending if you're a career changer or an academic record enhancer. Also, it's a special structure program when it comes to 4-year universities. There's also the UC Post-Bacc consortium, and that consists of 1 application. Also, the private universities, like I mentioned, Charles Drew is one of them, CSU. So there's some CSU programs that offer official postbaccs, one of them being Long Beach, LA, CSU LA. And there's other out-of-state universities that might also have a pipeline program with their respective medical schools that are associated with them. But again, to find out more or find a list of the different postbacc that might suit you and your situation, definitely go to the WMC website and you can see a list of different postbacc, their requirements, their deadlines, also whether they're for career changers or academic record enhancers. Some of the pros of doing an official postbacc is definitely having the support group and network opportunities. There's different resources. Sometimes when doing a postbacc, if you're a career changer, you might not have had that experience doing research or volunteering at a clinical setting. So these type of official programs make it much easier for you to find those resources and opportunities to put in those hours to volunteer and shadow. And also, depending on the institution, you do get that one-on-one attention from the advisors or professors. So definitely, there's some universities that are much smaller, like Charles Drew, for example. So you get to know your faculty, your staff. Typically, they get to know you on a name basis. So it'd be much easier to possibly get the committee letter of recommendation because they really know you as a student, and because they'll see you every day. And there's some official postbacc programs that will offer MCAT support, whether that be offering you the materials, offering an extra course that you'll be able to take in your timeline, your plan for your schedule. Some programs do offer that MCAT support, which again is a big plus. But again, with an official postbacc, it is competitive. There's some, depending on what program you're applying, again, whether it's a career changer or an academic enhancer, there's like a minimum GPA of 2.7, 3.0, or sometimes even 3.2, depending on the program. They would require, a personal statement, letters of rec, and so forth. There are also, if you are a career changer, they might want to see that you have done some type of science coursework, maybe not necessarily the prereqs, but maybe have done some introduction or math courses, just so they could kind of see that you're able to handle the science course load. And also, so for the UC Post-Bacc Consortium, if you are interested, which those are typically for students who are academic record enhancers, they do have a priority deadline around January and February, and they have their last deadline coming up in April for next year. Next slide.
Okay, so my route was a little different. I graduated from college with a science degree, so I felt I was in the area of an academic enhancer, and I knew that if I wanted to make medical school a reality, I needed to complete a postbacc to improve my science GPA. So upon graduating, I looked into several options, including the unofficial postbacc and official postbacc. And I felt that the unofficial postbacc was the best fit for me because it allowed me to save the most money. And I also spoke to other students and current medical students that completed an unofficial postbacc and were able to gain admission to medical school. And for me, doing an unofficial postbac was very simple because you don't have to fill out an application or write a personal statement. As far as the Cal States, you need to ask the professor the first day of the class if you want to enroll in the class, and ask them for a permission number. And if they allow you to take the class, then you're taking that same class with everyone else, which usually are other undergrads. So that's also a big plus. And as I mentioned, one of the big benefits of doing an unofficial postbac is that you're able to save money because it allows you more flexibility. So you're able to maybe take 1 or 2 classes if you feel that you first want to build on your foundation for the sciences and also keep a part-time job, or if you do need to, you do have other financial needs that you need to keep paying for, then it's also beneficial because you could work and go to school at the same time. But if you do that, you need to make sure that you're able to balance both your work and your schoolwork, because when you go into a post-bac, you need to be able to commit 110% to your schoolwork and strive to get the highest grades possible. So if you are considering an unofficial postbac, I would say first look into the institution, the four-year college that you might be interested in, and see if they're offering courses right now, and look into them and see if they're currently open. That will help you see if you'll have a possibility to enroll the next year. And usually also an official postbac is a good option if your science GPA is too low for an official postbac, because as Alejandra mentioned, usually the minimum tends to be around 2.7 to 3.0 science GPA. So if you don't fall within that range, you're able to maybe go to another university and build your science GPA up to maybe be more competitive for those official postbacs, because official postbacs do have their benefits. They're connected with another university, and that you have a little bit more guidance than you would if you did an unofficial postbac. But it's really important for you, if you haven't done so already, to calculate your science GPA or your BCPM GPA, because that will really give you the best direction that you must take right now. If your science GPA falls below if 2.7, then sometimes it's more beneficial to take more than 1 year to improve your science GPA. Some people have done more than 1 year as a postbac, and some people have actually gone on to community college first to improve their foundation in the sciences, such as like maybe they repeated their general chemistry classes or other classes that they struggled with, and gone on to a four-year university to take upper division science courses. And it's really important for you to take upper division science courses because it will show that you have mastered the basics. For example, if you struggled maybe in general chemistry or organic chemistry or bio as an undergrad, taking courses such as physical chemistry, biochem, cell bio, and immunology will really prove to admission committees that you have overcome your challenges with studying or anything that you might have struggled in the past, and are now able to excel in these difficult courses. Usually it's not recommended to do a postbac at a community college, because most of those courses offered tend to be lower division, and you're repeating many of those courses that you already took as an undergrad, and it's not giving any of the committees a relief and knowing that that maybe you're still struggling with the sciences. So if you take upper division classes and you get A's in them, it will clear up a lot of red flags that might be showing up in your application when you apply. And typically, if you are tend to have like a 2.7 or above science GPA, usually a 1 year as a full-time student at a four-year university with close to straight A's will be competitive to apply, but you have to first speak to a counselor and see if that's the best option for you, because every student is different and every story is different. So don't always compare yourself to another applicant. We all have a different journey, but we are here to support you, and I know that it's never too late to improve yourself and to bounce back. But know that if your GPA falls a little lower than the minimum, that you'll need more time to recover from that. And typically for both unofficial and official postbaccs, the courses tend to be the same, which are usually heavy bio and chemistry upper division classes. And if you feel you need a stronger foundation in like the lower division science courses, what I did was I took a full year off and I saw a lot of Khan Academy videos for chemistry and for biology, so that when I went on to do an official postbac, I didn't struggle with the basics, because for me the general chemistry was a huge challenge for me, and taking that time off and reflecting on what I did wrong really did help me start the postbac strong and get the grades that I needed during that time. But one of the cons of doing an unofficial postbac that I felt is that you have to do the things on your own. You're looking for the classes on your own, and they're also sometimes difficult to enroll because many classes are impacted. If you live close to LA or to UC Berkeley, they have UCLA and UC Berkeley Extension. And with those institutions, you are able to enroll as soon as the classes become available, because they have those programs specifically for people that are not full-time students at their university. So that's also beneficial. I didn't do that way because I live in the Central Valley of California, so they're a little far off from where I live, but I found that my local Cal State offered everything I needed. Also, I want to emphasize that a strong upward trend in your science GPA is really important for admission committees, because it'll show that you're becoming a better student every year, and the type of student that they're getting is the one that has the highest GPA in the recent years, and compared to maybe something that you did 2 years behind where you struggled. So upward trend will show that you're getting better and better. Also know that GPA isn't everything, and MCAT also plays a big part in your application. So if you feel that your science GPA is still low, and after completing a post-bac, but you do have a strong upward trend, try to balance it out by doing the best you can to get the highest MCAT score. Okay, next. Also, there is another option for maybe some students that have a strong upward trend in their science GPA and really want to show medical schools that they are ready for the rigors of medical school. And a special master's program is a little different from a traditional master's program like a MPH or like a master's degree in biology, because it's made specifically to help students gain admission to medical school or another health professional school. And courses that you take with a special master's program tend to mimic the first year of medical school courses. So it is very rigorous, but if you do well in this program, it will be a huge benefit to your application. And they tend to range within 1 year. And again, if it is helpful, but one of the cons is that it's more expensive than doing an unofficial postbac or an official postbac, because you are taking graduate level courses, so the units cost more. And also it's not a specific degree, as in you're not getting a master's degree or an MS, or sometimes you get just a certificate. So if you plan to use that master's degree for something, some specific career, it won't be as helpful in that case. But I have met people who have done done a special master's program and have gained admission to medical school, so it does help you. It really depends on your case. Remember that a master's degree does not enhance your science GPA for your undergrad. They're used in two separate areas. So if your undergrad science GPA it's really low compared to the minimum or the typical applicants, it's better to focus more on improving that one at the moment and seeing where you could go from there, and then go on and look into other options. And again, it's always best to speak to a counselor about your next move from now. A special master's program is not for everyone, and you really need to look into your strengths and weaknesses before you commit to it. Okay, next. And this website is very helpful because it lists 234 programs that for postbaccs that include both masters and official postbaccs. And as you can see on the search bar, you could go to many different states and see if public or private, if it's a certificate program or not, or master's or undergrad. And the website, it's on the right side, and you could just put it on Google search and it should take you to it. And if you're interested in official postbaccs or in a master's program, this website should have almost all the programs available. Okay, next.
Okay, so how do you pay for your post-bac? So again, one option would be loans. And if you're doing an official post-bac, it would be considered a certificate program. Or if you're doing a master's program, both of those are eligible for federal loans. But again, it's important that you meet with the financial advisor of the institution, so you can kind of see the breakdown, and they could kind of give you more information about what your options are. A lot of the schools have their own private funding or their own scholarships for students. So definitely take advantage of that. Speak to them and see what scholarships you might be eligible to apply for. In addition to that, some official post-bac programs will allow you to do work study. Again, since you are eligible for federal loans and for FAFSA and stuff like that, work study would be another option. There are other post-bacs that will not allow you to work while doing the program, but those are more programs that are much shorter because they require you to be a full-time student throughout. But for those post-bacs that are a little longer, say 2 years or so, they will allow you to do the work study if you qualify. In addition to that, when you're doing work study in the university, they will know that you're a student and everything, so it'd be much easier for you to take some time off and so forth, and be able to get some of it paid for. Also, if you are doing the community college route, whether it's for kind of bettering your foundation in the science courses, you might be eligible for the BOG waiver, and the BOG waiver will help waive off the tuition for the classes.
If you are doing an official postbac, or there are some official postbacs that don't give you a certificate, then you are not eligible for federal loans, so you tend to not fill out the FAFSA. If you're in this situation, the best source of finance is usually private loans through an independent source, such as like Wells Fargo, Sallie Mae, or your local credit union. If you have a good credit score, you could obtain these loans on your own, but if you don't, as many students, you tend to need a co-signer, which usually is a parent or a guardian. In my case, I already had a lot of loans coming out of undergrad, so I didn't want to keep adding to my loans. So what I did upon graduating was I worked full-time for a year, and I saved $1,000 every month. It was very challenging because you have to limit your expenses as much as you can, but I was able to save enough money to pay for all my classes for a full year at CSU Fresno, and to offset some of the living expenses, I was able to also keep a part-time job. So with that extra money, I paid for my food and any other expenses I needed during the year. Also keep in mind though that if you do plan to work during your maybe an unofficial post-bac, that you need to also set up time to study, and it does become challenging to do both at the same time. That's why many official programs don't allow you to be as involved, because you need to focus on your schoolwork. And if you feel that you're not going to be able to do so, I would recommend for you to look for loans or some other source of funding to help offset some of your living expenses.
And then I also wanted to add, if you have some time within your gap year, if you have more than 1 or 2 years, something that I did after I graduated was I did a AmeriCorps program through Health Corps. So it was an 11-month service to a nonprofit clinic, and once the program was over, I got an educational stipend and educational award, so that helped pay for part of the official postbac. So definitely looking into other programs if you have some time before applying to medical school, so that way that could also be another way of kind of helping finance your postbac. Next. So just reiterating what we've been saying, so your GPA isn't everything. So you also want to make sure that you prepare for other parts of your application. For example, if you're applying to medical school, you also want to make sure that you're working on getting a good score on your MCAT and also having meaningful experiences. So what you want to do is make sure that you identify what areas of weakness that you have, and you want to work on them. So with that, what are other ways to strengthen your application that are not post-bac programs if you don't need to worry too much about your GPA? So one thing to focus on is your MCAT. So once you're done with your undergrad, you have time to study for the MCAT if you don't have a full-time job without worrying about other classes. So what I did was I chose to work part-time and study for the MCAT. I knew that I couldn't just study because I had to pay for bills, but I made sure that it wasn't full-time so that I would have the time to study. And it's also more about knowing yourself. So if you know that you need more time, then you can study longer periods. Like instead of 3 months, you study 5 months. So just make sure that you think about what works best for you. And some other things that you could do is you can also gain some research experience. Medical schools really like when students do research. So what I did was I was able to do both public health and lab research during my year off. I was part of a summer fellowship funded by the NIH called Mount Sinai International Exchange Program for minority students. That the application is coming up soon, so I'll make sure to post that on MiMentor. But I conducted research on the environmental factors that play a role in childhood leukemia in Spain. So that was a really good experience. When I returned, so that was just during the summer, I was able to work as a lab manager, and the lab that I was working in was the one that I had volunteered for during my undergrad. So I was just continuing my research. But I know that some people don't have time to gain research experience during undergrad. And something that you can do during this year is reach out to your local universities, and if you can't get a paid position, maybe you can volunteer a couple of days a week or 2 or 1, just to have that on your application. And it's not just like about having it on your application, it's more about the experience as well. So if you do decide to do that, make sure that it's research that you want to do, because when admissions committee asks you why you did that, you want to make sure that it's something meaningful to you. And lastly, something that you can also focus on is a clinical experience. So schools also like to see that you have some clinical experience. And some things that you can do is reach out to physicians and shadow them. Sometimes it can be hard to find a job in clinics, but like I said, similar to research, you can volunteer, which is what I decided to do. And so if you're looking for some of these activities, you can also always look at MiMentor. You can go to MiMentor topics and go to the clinical volunteering and research section. And many of our members are always posting opportunities. So if you're ever looking, make sure to look through there as well. And if you have any activities, make sure to post them. Let's see. Next. Okay, and then with that, thank you for taking the time to listen to our webinar. We're going to start asking questions that we haven't addressed in the presentation. So if you have any, make sure you put them in the chat box and we'll start answering them. And if you want to email us your questions, you can also do that. We'll also be sending a survey for feedback and comments. So if you want to see any other topics from your VPs of Educational Pathways Post-Bacc, please write it in there or even email us to our email that's on this slide. So thank you. If you guys have questions, start writing them.
Okay, so I see the one that says, how long is a post-bac usually? So for that, again, it depends whether you are a career changer or an academic enhancer, and also what type of post-bac you're doing. So if you're doing an official post-bac, typically for academic enhancers, it would be a year. And for career changers, they typically say around 2 years. But again, it depends how many courses you're doing and if it's official or unofficial.
I also see a question that says, how important is it to have published work for medical school? Because I have heard they really favor people who have published work. I think it's not super important. I think it's more important to have the research experience and have yourself like get your feet wet so you know what it's about. It obviously looks good if you have published work, but it's not the most important thing.
Okay, I see a question if are special master's programs eligible for federal loans? Typically, yes, if you are taking a program that gives you a certificate or a master's degree, you are eligible to have federal loans.
Okay, I think I see another one earlier. Let's see. Oh, there was one about our post-bacs just for pre-med students. So no, there's the post-bac can also be done for like pre-dental, maybe pre-nursing. Again, if you were either a student that didn't do so great in the science courses to apply to dental school or nursing school, or if you are just a career changer, so you're completely changing the career field, so you haven't taken any of those courses, you could definitely apply for the post-bacs. Typically, they're not as official, but you could do the unofficial.
Just to answer the last question also, yes, if you are eligible for federal loans, you're able to apply through the FAFSA. And I see another one. Do you see post-bacs have specific grade requirements? They tend to have science GPA requirements, and every program is different. Even within the UC post-bacs, Some might have a 2.7 science GPA requirement, while others are a little bit more competitive and they might require you a 3.0. So if you're interested in a particular school, you need to look into their website, and they're usually available and very easily through a Google search if you try to find it. And right there, I'll list all the requirements that they need. They require you to apply. And I see, looking back, would you do the same type of post-bac you completed over again, knowing the pros and cons? I would, because for me, financing post-bac was really important for me, because overall the main objective of doing a GPA enhancer post-bac is to improve your science GPA, and doing an unofficial post-bac gave me the best of both worlds, where it allowed me to enhance my science GPA and also save money. Alejandra, would you want to answer that one too?
Yeah, so looking back, I would do it a little different. Again, when I was doing my official post-bac, I felt like at that moment I needed to do an official post-bac because I felt like I was lost. I felt like I needed guidance. I was a career changer. So it was very difficult to maneuver the pre-med life as a career changer when you don't have really a science GPA. I had only volunteered, but I didn't have that that much clinical experience or research or any of that. I barely even knew what an MCAT was, let alone how to study for it. So I felt like I needed guidance and a type of group to kind of guide me through the whole process. It was definitely expensive, so that's something to note. And now, knowing what I know now, I feel like it'd be much easier for me to maneuver the coursework and what I need to take without having to do the official post-bac. Because as Kenya was saying, I mean, it is expensive, so that's something that you have to really think about. And I had never gotten loans before, so that was something new. So kind of maneuvering, okay, how am I going to finance this? And also, I mean, it's a big gamble because you're putting all this time and effort and money into something that you want to do, but you're not sure if you'll do great in the courses, or if you'd have enough, who you have to go, if you need tutoring and stuff like that. So that was something I also thought about, and which is why I did the official post-bac in the beginning.
And I see a question that says, what are some ways to prepare for the MCAT? Is it beneficial to take courses for the MCAT or to just study by yourself? So I did a mix of both. I mean, I took the Kaplan class. I didn't find the class so beneficial, more so than I really thought the books were really good for just general content review. And also like the Kaplan, I had Kaplan, they provided a test. So they provided like 10 practice tests, or I'm not sure, I can't remember how many, but they have a lot of practice tests, and that's what I use to study and prepare to actually take the test. But in terms of the class, I didn't find that so useful. I found that studying on my own and using Khan Academy and other resources online helped a lot more to prepare me. And maybe in the future we can have an MCAT webinar, but yeah.
Okay, I see a question. Is there a difference with doing a post-bac at a UC Extension and Cal State? They're both at a four-year university, so they'll have the same effect. I have seen both cases, and both have been successful in gaining into medical school. And not everybody lives close to a UC, so medical schools will know that. So as long as you do well at the four-year university that you do a post-bac, it will help you. Maybe some medical schools might have a bias and will prefer for you to go to a more competitive university. But again, both have been successful for students, so either way, it can work. And I see another one is I have found that most post-bac programs offer 24 to 32 units, but cost upwards to 40,000. I have found a total of 8 courses at CSUF, totaling 27 credits for about 8,000. Given the effect on my GPA would be similar, should I opt for the CSU route? I don't want to give you like yes and no. Every program is different. There is definitely benefit to doing an official postbac. But if they're both going to be doing the same effect to your GPA, and it really depends on what type of guidance you want, and either one will work. But as it's the same case for me, I wanted to save the most money as possible, and I did speak with people who did the same as me, and they recommended for me to do an official postbac. So it really depends on your situation.
As someone said, hello, I was wondering if the official UC postbaccs for academic enhancers can be done as part-time and work part-time. Again, it depends on if you're speaking about the UC, the consortium, they're a little different. Again, it's based on the institution that you go to, but I know there's some that they will allow you to, they don't say no to working. I know the official postbac that I did, we had some academic enhancers, and they were definitely working part-time. But like we mentioned in the presentation as well, it's important to be able to balance and know that when you're doing a postbac, again, because it's not cheap, you have to really make sure you're giving it your all and you're able to prioritize about what's important. Because if you're doing a postbac, you want to show that you're improving and that you're able to handle the coursework.
Okay, I see another question. Should I retake a C- for OChem? And unfortunately, a C- is it's not a passing grade, because I also have received a C- in my coursework, and because of that C-, the minus sign, you have to retake it if you want to apply to medical school. And it's okay to retake a class, but make sure that the second time you take it, that you get close to an A, or try to get as best as you can in that class, because most medical schools are not very forgiving if you don't do well the second time around with the same class that you already took. So to keep that in mind, and when you retake classes, to do the best that you can to get the highest grade. And even in that case, if that happened really in the past, you also want to keep building on that level, like maybe on the chemistry, and take higher level science courses, like physical chemistry or analytical chemistry, to show that you mastered the basics of chemistry if you have had more than one bad grade in your past. And again, it also goes for a C- in calculus. Unfortunately, C- is not passing. You have to retake it if your medical school requires that, because some medical schools don't require a full year of math. So maybe you could use 2 different type of math classes, but it's usually recommended for you to repeat C-. But if you get a C, it's recommended for you to take a higher level course instead of retaking it. And about retaking a C+, I wouldn't recommend to retake a C+. I would recommend for you to take a harder class in that area and do really well in it.
So somebody asked, when you say the Kaplan class, do you mean the $2,000 one? And so that's referring to the question earlier about the MCAT. So I actually didn't, I had a scholarship, so I was able to not pay for my Kaplan class. So I'm not really sure which one it was. I know that it included the classes online and in person, and it included the books and the online access to the tests. But if you're really trying to save money, I feel like the most beneficial to me, at least, was the tests. So having access to those practice tests really allow you to understand what areas of the MCAT you need to work on, so that like if you keep doing bad or like poorly on one section, then you know you need to keep working on that. And like I said, I thought that Khan Academy was really useful. But it's also different with every individual. Like not everyone learns the same. So I think it's more about knowing what works best for you.
Someone asked that I have been working in the dental field for the last decade and I'm applying to dental school. What do you recommend? So I'm not very familiar with dental in the dental field or dental school, but we see that there's some people that are really interested. So we're definitely going to see what we could do whether a webinar or another type of Together Mentor event to cater to that. But again, if it's in regards to doing the courses, I would definitely recommend seeing what schools you're trying to apply to. I have some friends who are currently applying to dental school, and they did mention that they're a little more picky in the sense of where you take those courses. So they don't recommend at all taking them at community college. So definitely trying to look into the four-year institutions to take those prereqs if you still need them. And it'll definitely help that you are in that field already. So that's definitely a plus. But again, just look into where you want to apply, and also studying for the DATs, which I've also been told that it's very intense with OChem. So that's something also to look into.
Okay, see, how challenging is it to enroll in classes through the CSU? Well, for the CSU system, you have to wait until the end, until everyone has enrolled. So sometimes you might not be able to get the class that you want because it's impacted, or it might be required for the bio majors. But I didn't have any challenges finding 12 units worth of courses in upper division science classes. But sometimes you might have to take a class you don't like maybe plant physiology or some area that you're not really interested. But as long as you take upper division bio classes, it will help you. Yeah, but sometimes you do have to make some sacrifices because you won't be able to get like maybe the classes that you're really interested in because they would get filled up to max capacity.
And yes, someone actually mentioned, I believe Ali, make sure to turn in your transcript in advance if there are prereqs for the course so that your enrollment does not get delayed. Yes, that is very important, especially if you're trying to enroll in, obviously as either through community college or through the extension, so the Cal State extension or UCLA extension, because again, a lot of times you might be like kind of fighting for that spot for other individuals. So definitely getting that being cleared. So sometimes they'll allow you to enroll, at least that's the case for community colleges. You can enroll beforehand. There's no need to talk to the professor. But when you're doing the CSU route, it's always good to have that cleared. So that way all you need is the instructor's signature.
I guess I have, if I get straight A's in the other courses, will they weigh in the more recent courses more heavily, or will I still be negatively impacted by my undergrad GPA trend? The undergrad GPA trend is very important, and it's very important for it to be an upward trend. And if you're in the case where you had a high GPA since earlier on in your career and it dipped down and then it went back up, it dipped down again, you need to explain that in your personal statement, because that would be a red flag. Medical schools want you to improve, not to fall behind. So if you really need to analyze your trend, and if you see that it's not going upwards, or something happened in between, that you explain that to when you write your personal statement or some other form in your application. But as long as your most recent grades are good, close to 4.0 post-bac, you should be good, but you need to explain that what happened during that time.
So let me talk about how I got my scholarship for the MCAT prep. So I was actually part of, through UC Davis, it's called MSPEP. Unfortunately, they're not offering it right now. So it was a program just for UC Davis and Sacramento State students that prepared you to apply to medical school. And if you got selected for that program, they would pay for your MCAT courses. So in that sense, I was really lucky. I know that there are other scholarships. Like I believe sometimes the LMSA will raffle out like a course, or depending on or they'll give it to you as a scholarship. So definitely, if I ever see some of those opportunities, or if anyone else does, then we can put it up on MiMentor. But yeah. And like Jade said, if you guys have a question on how to calculate your GPA, we will be posting the webinar into YouTube. So if you guys have more questions on that, you can rewatch it, or you can also email me.
And
yeah.
There's another question. Can I find an Excel template to calculate my science GPA? And yes, the AAMC has a GPA calculator, and I found it through a Google search. You just put AAMC GPA calculator, and I should pop up. If not, we can share with you in a later time. But I use that Excel sheet to calculate my GPA, and with every course that I took, I added it to it, and I saw how my science GPA changed.
And then just wanted to add on the Kaplan scholarship. So I also received a Kaplan scholarship this year, but it was through the consortium. I believe it's the USC consortium, but it was for CSU students. So like I mentioned before, I graduated from UCLA, not a CSU student, but through my unofficial post-bac, I took CSU courses, and they honored that. So because I did pay tuition, so I was a student, so that's how I was able to apply for that. So definitely keep an eye out for that next year. Hopefully they have that out. And again, like Myra said, we'll the more information we get, we'll definitely post it on MiMentor.
And I see, do postbaccs require the GRE to apply? The GRE is usually used for graduate programs. Most postbaccs don't require a test. Some might want you to take the MCAT, but that's only if you're a reapplicant. So usually any type of standardized test is not required. It's just your grades to apply.
In regards to do postbaccs require the GRE to apply, there might be some that might require you, again, if this would be if you're typically a academic record enhancer, if you've taken the MCAT or a GRE, or like maybe even a reapplicant, some postbaccs will require that, official postbaccs, but others, again, if you're a career changer or any of that, they don't require that you take them.
All right. So I don't think we want to keep taking any of your time. If you guys have more questions, please feel free to email one of us three. Our emails are on the slide, or you can also make sure that you write all your comments on our survey when we email it out. And thank you so much for listening.
Also, before more people leave, I just wanted to remind everyone that a post survey has been sent to all of you. So if you could please go fill it out so that you can give us feedback. And that's pretty much it. So thank you for coming or for participating. And yeah, we're gonna end this call.